Okay, we are live. Great. Hi everybody. Welcome to another Facebook Live event. Here we are today. We are continuing our series of Ask a Therapist, answering questions on how to manage the holidays during the pandemic. I'm Joe Zagami. I'm the director of My Therapy NYC. For those who don't know about us, we're a counseling and wellness practice here in New York City. I'm here today with my fellow therapist with me from the practice. And before we go and introduce you to, the therapists that are here, I want to give you a sense of what we will be doing today. As you know, this will be an open Q&A. You should see on your Facebook chat a place where you could write questions or comments. So feel free to do so. And we'll be reading out the questions and answering accordingly. And just as a heads up, we're not going to be using anyone's full name. And so feel free to ask whatever questions you have. So we're going to do that. And also we have lots of questions that we also got throughout the week, through social media and through email. And so now that I ran down through the logistics, I want to, introduce you to our fellow therapists here. And since we're in the spirit of the holidays, I figured when the therapists introduce themselves, we would do so by saying, what comes to mind when we think of the holidays? So for me, I'm Joe. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of the holidays is food. Growing up in a very Italian family, food was a way to express love. And so there was plenty of it. And so, that's what I think about. So next, I'd like to introduce Camilla, our practice manager.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Camilla, and the first thing that comes to mind when I think about the holidays is spending time with my mom in our living room.
Great. How about you, Christy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Oshoni, and the first thing that comes to mind when I think about the holidays is like a really solid Thanksgiving meal, and there has to be stuffing. That's like the beginning of the holidays for me, is when stuffing's on the table.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how about you, Marissa?
Hi, I'm Marissa Robinson, and when I think about the holidays, I think about trying out new recipes with my mom and my grandma and being together.
Great. And Lisa?
Hi, I'm Lisa Gadamaiolo, and when I think of the holidays, I think of intensity because I come from a family that celebrates Hanukkah and Christmas, and we have a lot of birthdays in December, and there's a lot going on, a lot to manage, so intensity for me.
Great. And you, Don?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Don McCarthy. When I think of the holidays, I think of some of the more cozy scenes, like I enjoy a nice fireplace or sitting with my loved ones or my partner, enjoying a nice cup of hot cocoa or hot apple cider.
Great. How about you, Jonathan?
Jonathan Basla here. I'm gonna piggyback on Joe's answer coming from a big Italian family. I have to prep 6 weeks in advance for the amount of.
I think we're having actually a little tough time to hear you, Jonathan. So maybe you could, I'm gonna go to the next person, but maybe we'll go right back to you because I think we're having issues with maybe the things. How about you, James?
Hi, my name is James Coulter, and when I think of the holidays, I think of family and love.
Great. And you, Johnny?
Hi, everyone. I'm Johnny McNeil. And when I think of the holidays, I think of family movie nights.
Great. How about you, Taylor?
Yeah, I'm Taylor Mefford, and when I think of the holidays, I think of all the hours that I spend in the kitchen. Cooking is my self-care, so I really feel good during the holidays cooking for my friends and family.
Great. And Jonathan?
Hi guys, sorry about that. It wouldn't be a live event without technical difficulties, so I'm here to provide that for you. I was saying that I'm gonna steal Joe's answer, and again, from a big Italian family, food is everything around the holidays, and it's often weeks of preparation to get my stomach in a place where I can digest all of the delicious food around the holidays.
Great, great. So with that, let's begin our Q&A. As a reminder, just submit your questions and comments in the Facebook chat and we'll answer them accordingly. So go ahead, feel free to ask these questions. But we will start off with a question that came in through an email just earlier today. So the first one I'll read off is, my family has a more relaxed attitude than I do when it comes to COVID. They think that I'm overreacting. I don't want to risk getting the virus by traveling to visit them this holiday season, but I'm afraid my family will feel hurt if I decide to stay home. How do I communicate in a way that helps them understand and respect my decision? So who wants to take a first stab at that one? Let's see. What do you want to? Marissa, how about you?
So I think the first thing I would say is, yeah, right now it is really hard to communicate how you're feeling. This is a really sensitive subject and sensitive time where there's a lot of different emotions and feelings around communicating your needs, specifically given everything going on. So I think the first thing I want to say with that is, yeah, definitely, we get it. And the second part is to check in how that makes you feel, to give yourself some space to really find out or to think about your emotions in this, of how it makes you feel that, you know, you have to have this conversation with your family, and express that if it feels safe to do so with your family members, by really creating the space for you, making sure the time is right to communicate. For example, maybe setting out a time where you're feeling grounded and okay to have the conversation, as well as that there's no, limitations or time limit. It just feels really good for you and grounded. And the second is to use I statements of, I'm feeling really, sad that we're having a hard time seeing eye to eye on this, or I'm feeling really sad that, I can't be with you on the holidays today, or really, fearful of the future or the unknown. So I think creating space, using I statements, and making sure that it feels good and grounded to have the conversation when you choose to.
Thanks, Marissa. It's so important. Creating space is really important. How about you, James?
Yeah, I really appreciate what Marissa just shared. It's so important. I love the part about the I statements, right? And also grounding yourself when you're about to have that conversation, because it can be upsetting, and it may even be a little bit difficult for some family members to hear that decision. But I love the I don't feel comfortable with this.
Mhm.
I'm not okay with taking that risk. I think that's really important. And just to add on to a little bit, I think it'd be helpful to let the family know that, that you're doing this for yourself and for them, right? You're doing this for yourself and for them, and you want to keep them safe. And I imagine that you love your family. That's why you're thinking about this. And so when we love people, we want to take care of them, right? And so one of the ways we can do that this year is really by assessing how much of a risk we're willing to take.
Evaluating that for yourself.
Yes.
Thanks, James. How about you, Kimia? See your hand raised.
Just echo what Marissa and James said. I think it's just so important to take a deep breath before you go into this conversation, ground yourself, but also to know that your feelings are valid. Like, if you don't feel safe to travel, that is so okay to feel. Because I can imagine just setting that boundary with families, you might feel guilty, you might feel that this isn't right, this is the holiday season, you have to spend time with your family. And to just give yourself permission this year specifically, that it's okay that the holiday season are going to look different, feel different, and that you are in the right. You can say that, I'm sorry, I love you, but I can't spend this year with you. And it does make me feel sad. But again, just to give yourself permission that it is okay if you're not feeling safe to travel and see the family members.
Great. Thanks, Kimia. Christy, want to add something there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to echo all of the thoughts about permission and giving yourself space to feel and being able to communicate those feelings. I think what's really hard about this is that it just kind of feels like some families are balancing like different realities, right? Like for some, the risk, it feels theoretically more than than for maybe other members of your family. And so first off, you're not responsible for changing hearts and minds. And so there is some dissonance there. And I think just allowing that and acknowledging that for yourself can be helpful. But I also think it can be valuable to provide maybe even some kind of alternative, right? So along with like, I really wish I could be there. It just doesn't feel safe for me right now. And this is my decision, saying like, but I really want to make sure we have like a Zoom event on Thanksgiving or Christmas Day. I want to make sure, what is it? There's like a Netflix live thing where you can like watch a holiday movie as a family. I don't actually know what that's called. If anybody knows the name of it, that'd be great. But finding some way to still like infuse this time with a little bit of, you know, your usual traditions while realizing that it's going to be adjusted quite a bit, and yeah, that you're not responsible for anyone else's feelings.
Mm-hmm. I love that in the sense that you have to be this, you know, holiday season, you're going to maybe have to be a little bit more creative, right? And figuring out ways to kind of connect with others. And I love the fact whether it's kind of doing a Zoom or some virtual event of some sort, but it's going to be really important this year to kind of, you know, so that you could feel less alone and feel more connected. So let's go take a stab at the next question. Let's see. So we have a question, you know, how can we stay motivated and positive during this really tough time? Great question. So let's see who wants to answer that one first. So how do we stay motivated and positive during a tough time like this? James?
Yeah, so just go into the holidays with, try to go into it with the way you normally would go into it, right? As if we weren't really into this space. Maybe try to reflect on those happy moments when things were better, when things weren't so complicated and so scary. And really get into that space and enjoy the holiday, do things differently, make it creative, have some fun, highlight the differences, right? That we're doing this different this year, and we're trying to get people involved in it, right? So maybe if it's a big Zoom event that you're gonna have with your family, then that's a great thing to do. Then you can have maybe a certain time for storytelling on Zoom, right? With the family, right? Different places, storytelling with the kids and things like that, getting the children involved, right? Also, because by now kids have been learning remotely and also going in, you know, with schooling and things like that. So getting them involved and having everyone participate and a way to bring the spirits up, and have fun, because this is the holiday season, right? And find joy in it any way that you possibly can, and stay safe.
Safe, fun, and, you know, doing your best you can. Taylor, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so piggybacking off of what James was saying, one of the ways that I know a lot of my own clients feel motivated is by sharing memories with other people, and especially around the holiday time where there are lots of fond memories to be had of past years, being able to share in what that was like with the people around you. Say like, oh, like last year, do you remember when we did this, or do you remember when we were kids we used to do this? And that can often bring up these feelings of excitement that we used to feel, and give us something to hold on to and figure out how we can rekindle that excitement, even though things are different and definitely a little bit crazy this time of year.
Yes, agreed. Different and a little bit crazy. Mm-hmm. Johnny, I want to add something to that.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I think really understanding that isolation is shared by many, and one of the things that I think can be really helpful is just finding ways to appreciate each day and taking note of sort of small graces, sort of going outside, writing down 3 colors, or, you know, 3 sounds, 3 smells, or just kind of really trying to be present with the moment and finding little things to be appreciative of that can sort of make sort of the whole day and the experience positive. Things you might have not noticed if you were sort of caught up in the holidays. So kind of having that time for you to be appreciative of what you have in your life on a regular basis.
Really emphasizing on on your gratitude and the things that kind of matter the most. Thanks, Johnny. Jonathan?
Yeah, just to add on to what everyone else said, I've had a lot of clients too that have struggled with motivation and productivity throughout the whole pandemic. And what we found that's kept them grounded is one way of making a schedule each day and making sure to include throughout the day things that bring you a little bit of joy, whether it's writing in that coffee break or taking a break to journal or meditate. If you like to work out, exercise, all these like little things, 20 minutes, 30 minutes here that you can spread out throughout the day to look forward to and to remind you that although things look different now and they're challenging and they're hard, there are these like small moments of peace, small moments of time for yourself, time for things that you enjoy. And that's really what's kept a lot of them motivated and productive during this time. And in regards to specifically the holidays, which I feel like are often a higher stress time in general, maybe notice how this is maybe less stressful in some ways. Maybe not cooking a giant meal for 20 or 30 people, or having loud noises in the house, or worrying about buying gifts for a million people. Maybe there's a little bit of relief in that, and noticing that it can be both things. You can miss it and also appreciate it at the same time, that it might not be there this year.
Exactly. Well, we're going to move to the next questions since we seems like we have a lot. I know Kenya clarified something for Christy. Christy, it was the Netflix party, which is, I guess, a great way to watch Netflix. So,
Thank you, Kenya.
yeah. And actually, Kenya asked a question also. So, what advice would you give unemployed individuals who are dealing with the crisis of unemployment during the holiday season? And how should they manage internally and external stressors? How should they manage internal and external stressors? I want to take a stab at that one. Go ahead, James.
Well, I think that's a great question, right? Many people are unemployed right now due to this pandemic. And that's really difficult. It's really difficult. So let's just acknowledge that first. But to answer the question, how do we manage these internal and external pressures that we feel, right? First, recognize them, know that they're there, right? Know that they're there, and also realize that what you can do will be limited because of the circumstance. With that being said, you will know that there's some things that you just won't be able to do. And I imagine that family and friends would understand that as well. So try not to put too much pressure on yourself. When I hear about the internal pressures, I think about for myself, I even think about the guilt that I would place on myself, that I want to do more. And I encourage you to not beat yourself up about this, because if you had it your way, it'd be different. And unfortunately, it's not different right now. And so I would lean into just more of acceptance of the way things are right now. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and be honest with yourself and your family and friends, and let them know what you can do is limited, right? And even the way you celebrate will have to be on a lower scale, and that's okay. It's not forever. It's not forever, and I imagine that you will find employment again. I know it's difficult right now, but just hang in there, and don't beat yourself up. Don't take on more pressure than you already are experiencing. That's my suggestions for you.
Thanks, James. Yeah, be kinder to yourself, right? Especially during this time. So yeah, I love that. Lisa, you want to add to that?
I'd love to add to it. I want to add to what James said. I mean, one of the things that we can do here today that's really helpful is to continue to name what we're going through and how hard it is. This is a global crisis. There are so many elements. There's so much for everybody to manage. There's so much that's out of control. And so it's extraordinary time. It calls for extraordinary measures, extraordinary, like Joe and James are saying. extraordinary kindness toward ourselves. And if it's possible, it's a time to make as much space as we can around ourselves to just cope. Sometimes we can put a container around how hard it is and say, right now I'm unemployed in a global pandemic, and my job is to just do my best. And I'll get to work and I will do all the hard things when it's possible. And another thing I would do inside that container is connect. I think it's one of the most powerful things. I was looking at a CDC picture of people with 6 feet apart with arrows between them, thinking this is exactly what we need and don't need. We need to do it to stay safe, and it's the most impossible thing to do in a crisis. We need each other. So I would say in this time when you're unemployed, when you're thinking about the holidays, when you're managing this enormous crisis and all the things that it brings, stay and connect. I have friends that are in small informal groups on Zoom that are all they're all performers, and they're all leaning on each other, normalizing and recognizing things that they have in common. And they're saying, me too. And I feel like that's really powerful right now. Join a group. See if you can take, it's a time to take the best possible care of yourself that you can and make that the goal when the other things aren't accessible right now.
Thanks, Lisa. Again, being kinder to ourselves. Let's go to the next question. So what do we have here? Ann Lee asks, is it bad that I feel a little relieved that I don't have to host for a large extended family because of the level of anxiety that I was feeling due to COVID-19? However, I will miss my extended family. So let's see, how about you, Christy?
Yeah, so straight away, no, it is not bad at all. It makes so much sense. And even as I say that, I feel like it's the perfect thing to say to one another, and it's the perfect thing to say to ourselves, like, of course I feel relieved. That was going to be really stressful to have to navigate that. And doing that is another way of just providing really good self-compassion during this time, which is so needed. And yeah, I just want to acknowledge too that the final thing, I think Anne mentioned that she's going to miss her extended family, and I feel like we've been talking about this already so much today, and we'll keep mentioning it. Just the idea of making space for feelings of grief and loss, and really letting yourself acknowledge the wish. Like I really wish that I could be close to the people I love right now. I so long for that. And even putting it in that language for yourself, and just really giving yourself permission to feel into that. It's so allowed, but no, it is not at all bad to be relieved about that. It makes sense.
And also to know that you'll have multiple feelings, right? And multiple feelings are okay, right? Whether it's feeling relieved, feeling the grief, feeling joy or gratitude. I mean, there's so many different ways that we could feel, and it's okay to feel them all, even at the same time. Johnny, how about you?
Yeah, I was just gonna sort of go off of what Christy was saying. I think it's, feelings just happen. So blaming yourself for having a feeling, is not really productive. And I think, especially in this time, kind of understanding that it is a really anxious time, and that kind of, focusing on sort of anxiety over, the components that would bring up, obviously it's understandable to, want to really kind of not sort of be critical of ourselves. And I think in this situation, reaching out to family over Zoom, or kind of acknowledging that, and not sort of blaming yourself for those feelings, because I think they're really valid, I think is just really important.
Thanks, Johnny. How about you, Don? Anything you want to add to that?
I did. I just want to say at this time that just to take notice of what the holiday really means to you and what it's about, and giving yourself permission. I think echoing a lot of what other people have said already, just can you give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling, and maybe just notice that during this time, this is an unusual year. 2020 has been an unusual year to begin with. So we've already had to do a lot of things and other holidays to kind of navigate and do things totally differently this year. And maybe, like I think we've been talking about earlier, can we do something different over Zoom or do something with our families differently this year to make it still a special experience and a family experience, but something that just is for ourselves this year, and to, yeah, just give ourselves permission to do things differently this time.
Yeah, and definitely unusual indeed. So I
Yeah.
agree with that. How about you, Marissa?
Yeah, I just wanted to hear, when I heard that question, what came into my mind of, that's really brave to say, you know what, hey, I'm feeling really relieved right now, and letting ourselves feel that relief. And like, you know, taking that deep breath of, you know what, I'm trying to make the best I can out of this situation. And that I am doing the best that I can with what's given to me right now. You know, I have a lot of anxiety due to the pandemic and to 2020, and that's okay. It's okay right now to not be okay and to feel the relief of not adding one more thing to our plate. Just wow, that's freeing when I even just said it. So I think just continuing to be grateful for those little moments of freedom and knowing that you are doing the best that you can. You know, I'm telling all of my clients, write that down 1,000,000 times, write it, post-it note it everywhere in your house. You are doing the best that you can.
Wow, great. Let's move on to the next question we have here. Let's see, Tony asks, what would you recommend for supporting a young active duty population who have been told they will not be allowed to travel to family if they live greater than 60 miles from their base? Question. James?
Yeah, first I'd like to, thank all of our troops for their service, right? They keep us safe, they keep us protected, and allow that freedom that we have to continue. And so just want to put that out there and wish on all of the troops happy holidays. We ask so much of them. What do we say to them when they can't be with their family? How can you really make that any easier, right? It's bad news. It's bad news, right? It's bad news. And it's unfortunate, but it's necessary. And I just suggest that, try to connect with your family any way that you can, whether use any type of technology to connect with your family, whatever that is. And write letters and postcards now, even if they get them late. It's just a way of saying, I'm thinking about you. I wish I was with you. And it's really unfortunate. I just encourage you to try to be patient. And this is something that our military does so well, right? They're so resilient, right? They're so resilient. They know how to deal with many difficult tasks. And this is something that many people look forward to, and to have it be specifically said, you cannot do this because of the distance that you're in. It's very, very upsetting. It's upsetting for me to even hear the question. So just be patient, right? Send your love any way that you can, and know that your family will miss you and you will miss them. But connect any way that you can. There are many ways you can connect without being in person. I hope that's helpful.
Thanks, James. How about you, Camilla? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I love what James said. I think that resonates so much. And the only thing that I would add is to, if you can and feel comfortable, rely on your community, rely on the people that are staying behind with you. Maybe try to have your own kind of celebration. It's going to feel different. It's going to be very, very different. But that doesn't mean that you don't get to celebrate the holidays. Again, rely on your community members who are going through the same, so that you're not alone.
Yeah. Getting as much support as you can, right, during this time. So important to help us not feel as alone. Okay, let's, if you're tuning in right now, just if you're coming in a little late, just again, we're just doing a Q&A and answering questions that you have. So write questions into the chat, questions, comments, and we'll just answer, accordingly. So let's see the next question. Denise asks, a good question, I like this one. Any recommendations on how to keep politics out of the holidays? I know it's been tough for me, so I was just wondering how you guys would handle it, and then we'll go from there. Let's see, Taylor, how about you go first?
Yeah, and speaking as somebody who loves a good political conversation, it's, it can be, lots of fun and, something to, really like hone your own perspectives, but sometimes that's really, sometimes the Thanksgiving dinner table is not the place for that. And it can make people at the dinner table feel really uncomfortable. And so I totally get like wanting to keep it out of the holidays. It's not really what the holiday spirit is about. Um, so with that in mind, it's important to name that explicitly. And if these kinds of things are coming up, talking about the big election we had this year, for example, and if you're feeling uncomfortable, feel free to just, first of all, check in with yourself, check in with how you're feeling physically with that conversation, and then let people know and say, you know what, like I don't really feel comfortable right now. And if that kind of conversation is still going on, like just continue to stay with yourself and your own physical experience. And if you need to take a quick break, run to the bathroom and just get a breath of fresh air, then feel free to do that as well.
What I'm hearing is to making sure you take care of yourself, but also making sure that you create your own boundaries, with your family. So I really like that. And what you're willing not to tolerate in any way. How about you, Johnny? Anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to I think going into that situation and acknowledging that this has been, a very stressful political time. And I think really focusing on trying to avoid that conversation can sort of exacerbate anxiety. And so I think kind of acknowledging that, this conversation might come up. I think the more that you try to avoid something, the more you can get nervous about it, and it could actually make it worse. So I really just sort of think acknowledging that it might come up, as Taylor kind of said, taking space away to kind of check in with yourself and take a break. And I also think just kind of reminding yourself, you can't really manage the feelings that you might be having in those conversations, but you can manage your reaction. So I think sort of taking time to make space for the feelings that you're having can sort of enable you to maybe respond in a way that is more sort of informed, not so charged. But I think sort of understanding the agency there of your feelings are valid. Those are things you might not be able to control, but your behavior and response you might be able to sort of manage just by taking space and taking time away.
Great. Christine, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm appreciating the comments about setting boundaries, and I'm thinking of a phrase that always sounds kind of harsh to me, but it is true that a boundary is kind of useless without a consequence attached to it. And it's important to like explicitly make it clear what that consequence will be. So if you're saying, I really don't feel comfortable this, Thanksgiving talking about politics, like it's just really painful for me, or I know we have differing views, and if you continue to bring it up, I am gonna go away, right? That's the consequence, right? I am gonna remove myself. And letting your loved ones know that that's the case, so that they can take care of you in that, and make it so that you can stay in connection with one another during what is supposed to be a celebratory time, but of course it's charged by all of the things that we're carrying coming into it. So just making sure those boundaries are really clearly stated.
Thanks for reminding us, to a good boundary comes with a consequence, and having that connected to it. So thanks, Christy. Camilla, want to add to that?
Yes, again, along the long lines of everything my colleagues have said already, but one thing that I've been telling my clients that's very similar to what Christy just mentioned. The only thing is that I've been telling the clients that are really struggling and feel very anxious about going into the holiday season, just talking about politics, especially with clients that they know that their political view is very different than their family members. I've been telling them that you get to set these boundaries, but do it in advance so that you don't have to have this conversation right at the dinner table. You don't have to set the boundaries and feel very anxious on the spot, but you can tell your family members if you are traveling, if you are choosing to spend the holiday with your family, just let them know in advance that I really, this Thanksgiving or this Christmas dinner, I don't want to talk about politics, and I hope you guys can respect that. I just want to come over and spend time with you guys, but I really would appreciate if we didn't bring up politics. So you can set these boundaries, and if it helps you, do it in advance. So you're giving enough time to yourself and your family members to kind of adjust to this boundary.
Great, thanks, Camilla. James, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, just really quickly, I love what Christy and Camille are saying about the boundaries. And just to add a little bit more, since we are also in the pandemic, we should be asking people what precautions are being taken at any place that we're going to, right? And so with asking that, it's also safe to say, listen, I'm not okay with talking about politics either this year, right? This year's it's been rough. 2020 has been a real challenge for everyone, I'd say. And so it's okay to kind of put that out there from the beginning and say, listen, I'm not really okay with talking about politics. It's a really tense topic. And if they want to have that conversation and people say, well, we're probably going to talk about it, okay, well, I'll probably just take a walk or go get some fresh air and come back, and that's okay. You make that decision for yourself. So this is the time for boundaries. This is the time for boundaries, right? And boundaries are helpful to protect us and the people we care about.
For us and for them. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, James. So let's go to the next question. We have Daniel asks, how could I maintain healthy self-care habits as the weather gets colder? Good question. We are going into the winter. So let's see, Johnny, I want to take a stab at that one.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think in terms of self-care, sort of the whole pandemic, I think made a lot of us have to readjust self-care habits that we might use, whether that's sort of going to the gym or sort of doing, exercise classes, etc. And I think that, the great thing about sort of this opportunity was it was a chance for all of us to explore alternative self-care strategies. And so I really think, as someone who appreciates a routine of kind of keeping them grounded, it's an opportunity to kind of break away from that and kind of explore other options that might sort of be, useful in keeping you grounded. And the other thing I was going to say is I think the term self-care is so often conceptualized in a certain way. And I think, a lot of clients that I've been working with have kind of talked about not doing self-care or kind of feeling negatively that they're not, employing self-care strategies that are kind of what self-care is, whether it's doing yoga or, doing these types of practices that can really sort of label it as being one type of thing. So I think really finding what self-care means for you is so important, and not sort of getting stuck on, what self-care might be for others and thinking that you should necessarily, apply those to yourself. So just kind of making space to figure out, other self-care, your own self-care, because it really is about you, not sort of taking on other people's self-care strategies.
Thanks, Johnny. It's a reminder for myself too to know, like, we shouldn't have these shoulds, just allowing ourselves to kind of be what makes us happy and what we should do, rather than kind of going internal. So thank you for reminding. How about you, Lisa?
I want to build on what Johnny said. And my first instinct when I heard this question was like a hearty me too. Like I'm afraid the weather is getting darker. It's tough times. For me, there's homeschooling. And so I just want to say, and clients also are bringing this up. So however far this goes, you are really not alone. This is something that a lot of people are worried about and grappling with. And the other thing I thought of was this whole pandemic, as I was listening about the politics and the boundaries, it's like everything on steroids. It's relationship on steroids. It's self-care on steroids. We're going to come out of this thing with so many skills. And I don't mean to bright side it because it's a very difficult time. And so I think really, because not everything that we're used to, like Johnny was saying, is available to us, really like tuning in and really being respectful of each need, the more we can know about what we're feeling, the better care we'll be able to take, and that care will look different. But I think this time is going to have, and it's going to be a moment-to-moment, day-to-day thing. So it's really about attuning to what you need in the moment, and then also just for me, when I heard the question about being motivated and positive, I loved the answers, and I was also thinking, just knowing that we get to lower our bar a little bit and do our best, and that it's okay to kind of say, if I can get to the end of this safe and sound, and keep that in the mix too. So the self-care will look different, and we may only arrive at a place that we're going to arrive where we can arrive. And the only thing we can do is go, I'm going to do my darndest, So, and best of luck to you, because I see you.
Thanks, Lisa. It's one thing I just want to emphasize is using this time as like an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity, even though it's a hard time, but also using this as an opportunity to learn new skills that we might not have, normally have done. Don, how about you? How would you?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to piggyback off of some of what my colleagues were saying, and just with some of my clients that we've talked about, really making the time for yourself. Just if it makes sense to do a daily routine or a weekly routine or something that you can incorporate for yourself, and just even little things that you may not even recognize as something that you're doing for yourself, or incorporating the senses, like sometimes using the sense of smell, like buying a nice candle, or if you like baths, taking a nice hot bath with a nice warm soothing oil or body lotion, like things like that, where you can incorporate the senses as a way to kind of help soothe and take care of yourself and your body during these times. And like going back to the should statements, like even if you do develop a routine and you just can't do it one day, that's okay. Be gentle with yourself. Just go back to it the next day. This is all about self-care and taking time and patience for yourself.
Can't agree more. Thanks, Don. Marissa.
Yeah, I think that going off of what everyone is saying is that self-care is going to look different right now. That's radical acceptance at its finest, that this year is different, our self-care is different, our location, everything is just different right now. And so there's a radical acceptance piece of, okay, this is different. I want to show myself compassion for that, as well as, okay, what was I getting from those past self-care things that I could do? What were the needs going back to? For me, running is really helpful. I like it because it allows me to clear my mind. What other things that can I do to clear my mind? Is it yoga? Is it taking a bath, like Don said? What is going to clear my mind? And then celebrating that small win, writing it down and journaling, like, hey, I did this today for me. How amazing is that? I took space out, and however it looks like for me today, and that's incredible. So really just celebrating those small wins. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again, you are doing the best that you can right now.
Can't say it enough, so thank you. How about we take a question from an email that we got earlier this week. Let's see. This has been a year of real hardship for me. I am not in the spirit of celebrating. How would you suggest I handle this holiday season? How about you, Kimia? Want to take a stab at that one?
I would say yes. It's been a really, really difficult year. And I love that you're able to just name that for yourself and just name that you're not in the spirit of celebrating the holidays. And honestly, it goes back to what I said before. Give yourself permission. If you're not in the spirit of celebrating, that's okay. This year is different. It feels different. So it makes sense that you might not do what you've been doing every year for the holidays. So listen to yourself, listen to what you're feeling, and go with that. Don't force yourself to celebrate the holidays just because it's the holiday season. It is totally okay to not want to celebrate this year and sit this one out if that's where you are.
Great. Christy?
Yeah, a moment ago, when actually Lisa was speaking, Lisa, you used the phrase lower the bar, and I just noticed I felt so relaxed when you said that. It was just a huge relief to remember that we can actually totally lower the bar this year, and by the way, every year, right? We don't need to put this much pressure around the holidays in general. But if it's been a tough year, I think it's so beautiful to remind yourself of that you're not beholden to any one holiday thing. You can celebrate in your own way or not celebrate at all, and just be at peace with that. So mostly I just want to say, Lisa, thank you for the reminder, because I needed that personally.
I think we all needed a little bit. Jonathan, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, just to add on to what Christy and Camilla said, this is a hard year, and giving yourself, and we've said it a few times, like the space to, what does that mean for you? Like, what does that feel like? And like Christy said, with lowering the bar, this is an opportunity to do anything you want. Like, think of the things that have been maybe stripped or removed. Think of the doors that still exist that haven't been opened yet. The opportunities to do something special for just you and not for anyone else. And I think sometimes that can be like a little overwhelming, like this idea of like endless opportunities within the sphere of this hard year, but it's a chance for creativity, it's a chance for adventure, it's a chance for new things that's not written in any book, that's not, anyone else's standards, or my family said we have to do this, or my friends want to do this. This is a chance for you to say, this is hard, I want to do nothing, I want to sit in my bed and watch Netflix all day, or I'm going to go for a long walk to a place I've never been before and listen to a great audiobook or podcast. And that's was my Thanksgiving or Hanukkah or whatever it was. And see what that feels like for you, because then maybe you'll start a new tradition where this will be a future holiday tradition, pandemic, hardships or not.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. We got another question from social media this week. That's, someone said, I recently lost a close family member and I'm grieving. How do I cope? Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, this is such a difficult time for a lot of people in terms of losing loved ones, that the holidays can kick up a lot of feelings. Whether you recently lost someone or lost someone several years ago. And so the first thing that I would say is, give yourself space to feel that sadness, to feel whatever that grief may look like, whether that's sadness or that's anger or that's disappointment or even joy. If, there are good memories that come up, to allow yourself to feel those things. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second is, like we have been really trying to hit home throughout this event, self-care is really important. And as I'll often tell my clients, self-care is not necessarily a bubble bath or sitting under a willow tree reading Emily Dickinson. It can also look really kind of gross and ugly, sitting in our 3-day-old pajamas watching Netflix, just doing what you need to do. And then the third thing is, in addition to that self-care, also community care is really important. And being able to reach out to the people around us for that support. Oftentimes, when we lose a loved one, like, we are not the only ones who are struggling with that, especially during the holidays. So you can reach out to other people who may be struggling, whether that's struggling with the same loss or even joining like a support group where people are dealing with other losses, and building that community where you can share in those feelings together and support each other through this tough time.
Thanks, Taylor. How about you, James? Anything you want to add to that?
Yep. Well, I just put my hand down. I love what Taylor said. I mean, everything just really reached home for me. I really appreciate it. Grief is never easy to process. It's just difficult. It's so upsetting when we lose a loved one, and it's hard to deal with that. And I just want people to know that handle your grief the way you choose, because everyone grieves differently. Even your family members that lost the same person will grieve differently than you. So if they're celebrating a holiday and you're not, and that seems weird, it's not weird. They're just expressing their grief in a different way than you are. I'm sorry for your loss, and I send my love and care to you and your family, and I hope that you find a way within yourself to get through this holiday, and remember your loved one. Remember your loved one. Maybe light a candle for them. Say a prayer for them if you choose. Whatever you practice. Send energy up to your higher power. Whatever that is for you. Get close to it.
Great, thanks, James. Well, I'm going to ask another question that's from the Facebook Live. Let's see. Can you please give me some recommendations to single people who live alone under strict restrictions? Anybody want to take a first stab at that one? Marissa.
Yeah, I think that this is a really important question, just because there is a lot of loneliness right now, and it's really hard to meet new people. It's really hard to be in your house without someone there with you, without a companion. And I think just acknowledging that, yeah, this is really, it can be sad, it can be lonely, and letting yourself show up as that and really feel that. And also, so having that, acceptance piece of just, oh, I'm feeling sad and I'm lonely, and I'm just giving myself permission, like Camilla has been saying, to just feel that sadness and loneliness, and that's okay, as well as, connecting in different ways, maybe going on Zoom dates, talking to people in that way, and knowing that you can get through this, that you are strong, and that you can make it through this one day at a time. So taking this time to stay connected with you as well, taking this time to learn about you and what you are looking for in someone. Maybe it's, okay, I'm attracted to this type of a person and would like to get to know, or would need someone like this in my life. Taking this time to stay curious about you, and then maybe going on a Zoom date or trying to connect someone over online. It's really important to know ourselves and be intimate with ourselves before we can share that with someone else. So as the theme is got tongue-tied there, sorry everyone. But creating space for yourself, staying curious about you and yourself, and then maybe looking for that in others in creative ways that we might not normally do so.
Thanks, Marissa. Christy, want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the theme today that's kind of emerging is like a duality about every experience, right? Of just accepting that this is different, but also using it as an opportunity too. And I think with this question of living alone, that's exactly the case. I think something I notice myself saying a lot to clients, whether it's just about the fact that we're meeting over Zoom, or the fact that they have to meet with family and friends over Zoom, is just the acknowledgement that this is an approximation of the real thing. This is not the real thing, but it gets us there a little bit. And there are some actual benefits too, I've noticed, about being on Zoom, right? Like being right up in people's faces, like having a different kind of intimacy. And so if you're home alone, really lean into that. The technology that we have, the availability of this resource, like on a neurobiological level, it really is meeting your social engagement needs, but not as much as if you were really in person and able to touch and And so knowing that, and again, being really gentle with yourself, if you're noticing this doesn't quite do it for me and I still feel lonely, that's okay.
Thanks, Christy. Yeah, it's being more. The only thing I would add to that is just being creative in our ways of connecting. And I love the fact that using technology as a way for our benefit, right? So that it could be, we could have a love-hate with technology, but at the same time, it could be a great way, especially when we have to socially distance, find a more way to connect, virtually. So I see that we're about 5 minutes left. So I want to make sure we get a chance to maybe ask a final question that all of us will answer. And so, yeah, so I guess how personally we will, kind of deal with the holidays for ourselves, and, kind of our last final tips that we want to, share with the audience. So great. So how about you, Camilla? Want to go first?
Sure. I think it's just, I can't say it enough. Permission is my word of the year at this point. I'm going to give myself permission to do what feels right to me without feeling guilty or feeling that throwing all the shoulds out the window, and just giving myself permission to, this year is going to feel weird. This year is going to be different. That's okay. I'm not gonna be cheery about it. I'm not gonna feel like I have to celebrate. I'm gonna be upset. I'm gonna be sad, but it's okay. That's okay.
Thanks, Camilla. Taylor?
Yeah, I think that the way that I'm going to handle it is, and handle the challenges of the holiday season, would be to reach out to other people that I care about. And really, this is a year where community has been so difficult to come by, and really prioritizing that and taking advantage of the holiday spirit to connect with my loved ones in whatever way I can is how I'm going to make the best of this holiday season.
Thanks, Taylor. Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of going off of what my colleagues have said, I think for me, with the holidays, I think self-care is really just about making sure that I have time to sort of collect myself, whether that's reading or sort of doing yoga. But I also think, and this is something I've noticed with some of the questions, it can also often be hard to kind of not get in your own head. And so one thing I'm really trying to do this year is really focus on the things that I'm grateful for and the things that I'm excited about, and, things that, I'm looking forward to doing, versus focusing on, any kind of nerves. And it can be hard to kind of shift away and sort of, but I think sort of validating those and kind of taking space, but also kind of trying to really appreciate the whole picture is something that I'm really trying to do this year, and being sort of looking for the positive versus kind of getting caught up in anxieties or the nervousness, which is difficult to do this time, but I think it can be helpful to kind of focus on those positives. That's what I'm trying to do this year.
Great. I'm also noticing some comments that are coming our way, so I just want to appreciate everyone who's saying that. I see Brent saying, thanks for these useful things. So thank you so much, and of all the kind words. James, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to deal with these challenges the best way I see fit. And that changes day to day. And I say that because it's based on my mood. Some days I feel like I can deal with things differently and in a more positive way. And some days I just feel like, let me just kind of like stay right here and just kind of like idle in this space and just kind of let myself be, feel whatever I'm feeling. I'm going to make sure that I connect with people, right? I'll connect with people and I'll explore how safe I will feel doing that in person or not. I will take whatever precautions I need to take to protect myself and my loved ones. I encourage everyone to do the same. But I'm going to enjoy my holiday. I know that this is a difficult time, but I'm going to enjoy my holiday. I'm here, I'm living, I'm happy that I'm here and I'm living and I'm surviving this thing that we're in. This has been a rough year. So I'm not just celebrating a holiday, I'm celebrating survival all the way up until this point. And I think that that's something that we have been trying to do since this pandemic has hit us. And so that's what I'll be doing.
Great. Lisa?
I'm smiling so wildly because this is such a great representation of how different we all get to be in this. And I'm like listening to James and I feel like I'm in church, like it's so gorgeous. And my answer is the exact opposite. Mine is, my son asked me what the holidays are going to be like this season. And I said, they'll probably stink. But let's see what happens. And so for me, even though I'm so inspired genuinely by everyone's answer, my way of coping is that for me, self-care would be not to expect anything, but to be curious and receptive. So let's see what we've got here and let's see what we can make of what's available. And for me, it's important not to hope to enjoy it. Maybe this year gets to stink. What if this year is the year that stank and we tried, And so that's kind of how my personality wants to go.
Yeah, we're all going to be a little bit different, but I also think that it's all very positive. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Don?
I really appreciate everybody, Lisa, James, everybody's answers. It's been making me smile and laugh through this, and I appreciate it. And I think that goes to the heart of what I'm doing. I'm going to take everything day to day and connect with the things that I usually connect with on the day-to-day basis or during the holidays, like walking in nature, listening to music, listening to holiday tunes that I enjoy, or watching movies with my partner or my loved ones that we watch every year, like Christmas Story or Peanuts, or things that we do every year, but also look forward to new and exciting things that my partner and I want to make a coconut custard pie this year that we've never done before. So just looking at things that have always brought me joy with others and connecting to myself and gratitude, but also looking at things that we can do this year. And Lisa, I really appreciate it. At least, that spirit of, at least if it didn't work out, if we burn the pie, we tried, or whatever. So I appreciate that.
Thanks, Don. The holidays wouldn't be the same without watching Peanuts. So thanks very much. How about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I feel really motivated by everyone's answers so far, and I feel like it's almost shifting my perspective in the moment. That's really making me consider ways of getting through the holidays. And I really loved, this idea of being grateful. And I'm just thinking right now, like, I'm grateful I have my health. I'm grateful I have my family's health. And maybe that's all I focus on this holiday season. And when we're in a time where health and wellness and illness is surrounding this globe, just taking a moment to say, maybe I can't be with these people, but at least they're healthy and they're here, and we can connect in a digital fashion. We can talk on the phone. And also, just to repeat what James said, I'm taking it day by day. Like, I wake up in the morning, I assess myself, and whether it's Thanksgiving this week or Christmas for me a month from now, I'm not trying to have expectations that I need to be somebody or be somewhere. If I don't feel safe, if I don't feel comfortable, if I don't feel like it, and then I'll tackle that challenge when I get there. But I think lowering the expectations and remaining grateful are really what I'm trying to hold on to.
How about you, Marissa?
Yeah, I think I'm really motivated by everyone's answers as well. I think it's changing. My first initial response is pause and check in. I'm just going to do that on repeat. I'm going to pause and check in, label an emotion that comes up, see where that takes me, see what needs I need to do to engage with that emotion, and do it. Whether that's sitting and crying and watching TV, or it's being joyful and doing the best that I can. I think similarly to what everyone is saying, taking it moment to moment and giving yourself permission to check in and do what you need to do in the moment, and reframe what the shoulds of the past and just being present and okay with what's happening now. So that's what I would do, or I'm going to do.
How about you, Christy?
I'm just feeling so enriched by all of this, and I agree. My perspective is shifting even as we're talking. But Camilla, you mentioned that you're making permission your word of the year, and I'm remembering what my actual word of the year was at the beginning of 2020, because we as a staff select words for the year. Mine was delight, and that was before I knew we were going into a pandemic. And so looking back, it's kind of interesting. But by delight, I meant like really focusing in on the things that authentically bring me joy. So not doing sort of like bright side ways of thinking, but yeah, honing in on the things that actually inspire that genuine sense of I'm delighted. And for me, that is my relationships. And it is, yes, like the people in my home, but I feel so delighted to get to do the work that I do, and I have so much care for my clients, and even getting to meet with them is really it's so uplifting to me, and I make sure to let them know that I take a lot of delight in our time together, and the same is true being a part of a staff like this, with so many bright and warm people. So for me, I think making sure I'm reminded that even if they're not like right in front of me and I can't, touch all the people I love, they're around, and we're really connected, and I can delight in those connections.
Thanks, Christy. And just for me, it's just pretty simple. And I think I said this before, just to be kind to yourself, especially during this time. I just think, the holidays are usually and typically kind of sometimes difficult or hard times for some people. And then with the pandemic, it's just making it even more difficult for some. And so just to be kind to ourselves, to be more compassionate to ourselves, allow us just to acknowledge where we're at and feel the feelings that we have. So it's just so important. And so, again, just to be loving and caring and just be compassionate to our own selves. And that's what I want to leave you with. So yes, we're about time. I really appreciate people giving us questions, and some may have been unanswered. And if you're kind of looking at this as a kind of recording after, please feel free to ask us more questions, or if you have questions after, at info@mytherapynyc. So feel free to always do that. And Camilla, our practice manager, will just kind of run down just some of our services that we have, and how to get in touch with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues. I think I also realized how my mindset has shifted since I started talking and went through all of your answers. So thank you for that. And as for our services, we offer individual therapy, we offer couples therapy, group. We also, as a practice, specialize in trauma, anxiety, depression, relationship issues, and of course, as an LGBTQ affirming practice, we also specialize in LGBTQ issues. We run groups, gay men's therapy groups at the moment. We also have a meditation group. Our meditation group is currently actually being offered virtual, and it's for free. Just as a practice as a whole, we have all gone virtual for all of our services. And if you're already not connected with us, if you're not a client of the practice, you can go on our website and book a free phone consultation with us. It will be a 15-minute call with either me or some of my other colleagues. And yeah, we can help you connect you to the right therapist, the right service, and just answer your questions. So yeah, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always there to help. Yeah.
And for those who don't know our website, it's mytherapynyc.com. So mytherapynyc.com. So yeah, so I want to just thank my colleagues for joining with me to answering these questions today. I really do hope the people who joined us today or are watching this live as a recording or watching us live now really got something out of it. And as I mentioned, this will be recorded and will be on our website and also, on Facebook. And so please do feel free to share this video with anyone who may, could really use this. Like I said, a lot of people are, struggling with the holiday season coming up. And so please do share this as maybe a resource. So yes, so thank you so much. So yes, feel, be well, be safe, and, and happy, have a great holiday season. Thank you so much.